Welcome to the third section of the exhibit, and this is called the Machinery of Democracy. And there are three different sections that are part of this, so be sure you see all three sides. And the first side is really interesting to me, being part of the art world here at Artworks, that art has played a huge role in our whole understanding of democracy. And as early as 1780, there were political images that were beginning to emerge to define different parties. So be sure you check that out. There's some really cool political cartoons that so early that came into play between the Democrats and the Republicans and how that played out. So be sure you catch those. Be sure you catch this side of panel 3, and this is the campaigning side. And so what's very interesting is to look at the progression of campaigning throughout the years, from everything from a torch, an oil torch that was carried during Lincoln's evening parades, where they did centering on bolstering votes for him, to the pins that were popular in the early 50s. And then we have political posters. They're all over. We see these all the time. Television advertisement became popular in the early 50s. So that was the beginning of advertising. It seems like sometimes we live in a perpetual campaign, especially with social media. So be sure you check this out and see the progression. All right, the third section of the Machinery of Democracy takes a look at voting throughout the years from 1789 to the present. So they initially started with a voice vote, and then that progressed to a handwritten checking off of a ballot, all the way up to the machines that we use today. It does also take a look at the Electoral College, which was part of the Constitution, Article 2, Section 1. So check this out and make sure that you check out where your state falls. There's also an interactive little flip chart that you can check out. Okay, this is Section 4, and this is called Beyond the Ballot. And the first section is talking about petitioning. The First Amendment of the Constitution establishes that Congress shall make no law restricting the right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Individuals and groups with very different resources have brought their interests and concerns before the nation. So petitioning really is open to everyone, and it wasn't until 1830 until the first actual petition went into effect, and that was from Steubenville, and that was a petition protesting the removal of the Cherokee Indians from the eastern native lands. Take a look at how petitioning works in our democratic process. Okay, so in the last panel we talked about petitioning, and this section takes a look at petitioning with your feet. And so this is more of an active engagement that we as citizens have the right to do in our country. So be sure you check out some of the imagery that is shown here. This is a wonderful kiosk here that shows these are some of the actual protest signs. If you pick a protest sign, you tap on that, and then interactively it will come up and it will give you the information that goes along with that sign. And then also we have some footage from the History Channel on protests that have happened throughout the years. So be sure you check that out. Isn't this a wonderful way that we can make our voices heard? Through petitioning with our feet. We can do it through protests. We can do it through speaking out, being engaged in our own communities. The third side of Beyond the Ballot section talks about lobbying, which is something that we can do to affect change within the government. However, along with lobbying can also come deceit and corruption. And so on this panel, you will see both how lobbying works, and then it also talks about the deceit and corruption. And this has gone way back from the beginning. So those people who have more money often influence, and they have more power to affect change. But that doesn't mean that they always win. So be sure you check this out and see just how you could affect change through your voice.